give them a nice HorrorHound welcome. Mariana Hagen. Devin Gardner. Talk directly into them. Have a seat that you really like. Don't be shy. Also, if you notice in front of you, there are nice refreshments. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to sit right here between you two. I feel so lucky. Yes.
My name is Marianne. I'm not Mariana.
I'm sorry, Marianne. Did I
No, it's
misspell
not
it?
your fault. It's just been misspelled on all of. It's just been misspelled on all of the HorrorHound stuff.
Huh.
And,
This is Marianne. Not to be mistaken with Mariana.
M-A-R-I-A-N-N-E, not M-A-R-I-A-N-A. It's only been that way for 49 years, so.
Well, we wanted to switch it up on you just a little bit to make it fresh, but it's all good. So, this particular, I guess you say, incarnation of the Halloween universe was a lot different from some of the first films that we had seen. What kind of experience was it bringing this particular universe to life for each of you? Because we got into dealing with a whole different mythology with Michael Myers in this. When we're talking about scientifically bringing forth serial killers, so on and so forth. What was that like to try to bring to life? We'll go with Michael first.
It was, how's everybody doing today?
Good.
Yeah, it was, that was the first time I played Michael Myers was on Halloween 6, and I literally had to study all the other episodes, other shows, and of course I wanted to add a little bit of my own flair to it too, So, and putting on that mask really helped me get in character, not having to worry about dialogue as much, just doing the acting and the killing scenes. And so the little things like the tilting of the head, when I went to the surgery room, slaughtered everybody, picking up the little knife and reaching down and grabbing the big machete knife, trying to do something a little different than the other ones, but trying to keep it the same.
Anybody else want to interject on that?
Well, I can.
It's all you.
I was sort of thrown into the film. This one?
Yeah, they're all on. Just bring them up to your mouth.
Is this on?
Yes.
I was cast and flew in either that day or the next morning and started shooting that evening that I arrived. So I feel like my experience with it was a lot like what Jamie's going through. She's thrown into these situations and she's just fighting to get through it. So I find that stuff really easy acting-wise because it's easy for me to tap into the fear in my brain, and the locations up in Utah were so amazing, and like that train station / I think abandoned airport that I shot in, and the barn, and all of that they were actually terrifying places to be. So it was the middle of the night, so it wasn't a hard experience in that way. And as far as the overall, how it was different from other movies, I didn't really have time to absorb any of that going forward. Pretty fast.
All right. Now, you were 7 when you did the film.
Yep, I was 7.
So, a hand for that. Out of that role. So what was that like for you, being 7 and doing a film like this?
Well, let's see here, it was 20 years ago, so, no, I'm kidding. I actually have a really good memory of it, surprisingly, and it was a blast. I loved it. It was a really cool experience. I definitely have seen in the last few years coming to these cons what an impact, the movie has for a lot of people, and that's really cool to experience too, because as a 7-year-old, you're really just kind of looking around with a smile on your face. They're telling you what white X to stand on and when to scream. So as far as retaining a lot of real solid memory from actually filming, it's a lot more kind of like a dream at this point, but something that'll definitely always be with me and I'll always remember. The scariest part of the movie, everybody always asks what was the scariest part, being 7. The scariest part was watching it at the end. That was for sure. Once it was all put together, that's when it scared the hell out of me. So, but it was good. I really enjoyed it.
Now, we had a conversation a little bit yesterday about what you did to get ready to look scared and act scared.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing that with the audience?
Do you mean what my dad did?
What your father did, yeah.
So the story is, it's the very end of the movie when Paul and Marianne are fighting with Michael Myers, and he almost kills her, and then he's reaching back behind, I guess they were these big boilers, or trying to get me, and I'm holding the baby, crying, you know. Well, the director pulled my dad aside and said, hey, you know, we've blocked out all day long for this. We got to really make sure that he nails it. So maybe you can have a little talk with him and have it, you know, explain to him how important this scene is and that he needs to really get that across, that he's really scared. So we were in, and help me if I'm wrong, but it was like an abandoned, some kind of an abandoned hospital or
Yeah,
something.
it was abandoned City of Angels Hospital,
Yeah,
It was
downtown,
spooky just being there.
downtown Los Angeles.
Well, they didn't do a very good job of cleaning out the rooms. They still had beds in them, no mattresses, but they were still like the spring beds and, you know, toilet and stuff like that. My dad's walking me down the hall with, you know, his arm around me, being all sweet and kind and telling me how scared I gotta be. And he pushes me into one of these abandoned rooms and slams the door shut. And I'll remind you guys, I was 7. And it literally scared me to my core. I thought I was gonna die, bawling, just pounding on the door, you know, Dad, freaking out. He rips the door open, that's what you gotta do, and they run me in. Action! I'm still like, crying. And yeah, we did it in one take.
Yeah, one
That
take.
was it.
Yeah,
And from that moment on, you became a method actor.
Yeah.
Your dad should be a method acting instructor. I like subscribe to method acting, so I was very much invested in the idea that there was no Michael Myers at all. Like, I'm just like, it's a party, these people are crazy, we're having so much fun. I was very much in that mindset, so maybe your father could become my acting coach
Maybe.
for the future.
I'm just glad Child Protective Services isn't what it is today.
Marianne, for you, being a heroine, what was that like, taking on that role for this film?
Well, first of all, it was just amazing to be cast in the role. When the movie was casting, Dimension had bought the Halloween franchise, and Dimension had just become an arm of Miramax Films, and it was going to be their sci-fi horror arm of Miramax that Bob Weinstein was going to run. So it was a really big deal. I mean, every girl in town auditioned for it. Everyone wanted it. Also for Paul Rudd's role, for Tommy Doyle. And I mean, if you were in your 20s, you wanted in on this because it was really super cool. So when I got it, this is before, you know, this is actually Blockbuster video time, where you'd have to like go rent a movie to watch it. So, you know, we got cast like a week before, so we didn't have that much time either. It's like I ran out to Blockbuster, and I had seen the original Halloween when I was a young girl. I was blown away by it. Like, truly a masterpiece, truly terrifying. Couldn't sleep, and I was told, watch 1, 2, skip 3, 4, and 5. So that's what I did to prepare, just to get all the family history down, and I really studied one a lot for the tone and the vibe, and Jamie Lee Curtis's performance was, you know, very still, and I really felt like I was carrying on this legacy of Halloween heroines, because Jamie Lee Curtis in 1 and 2 is just so amazing. And I mean, every actress in all Halloween movies has been amazing. But I took it really seriously, and it was a real honor. I was thrilled and honored to be able to play Kara Strode, who's Jamie's cousin.
One of the interesting parts about your particular character, I think, was the character arc that she had. She had a really interesting character arc. As you all remember, she kind of started out kind of meek, and then all of a sudden she starts getting protective, and it starts to build and build and build. And for getting it a week ahead of time, one, it was an impressive job, so give her a hand for that, because that's... How did you build up? What did you feel on for the experiences, like when you were, getting angry with your father, when you started becoming protective? Do you remember what was in your mind?
Well, I remember that whole breakfast scene. I remember talking to the director and just saying, I just want to play it like a straight-on family drama scene. Like, I don't know how many of you've seen the movie Ordinary People, or that sort of genre. It's just a family having breakfast, and there's tension, and there's history here, and like just play it straight and not like a horror movie having breakfast scene, yeah, we did, and we were on the same page about that. It was great.
Now, for each of you, what did you do to prepare if you were, like this family, they had their scripts about a week ahead of time, but what did you do to prepare for yours?
Well, I found it very easy because when we were in Utah in this creepy building, mental hospital, it was old and abandoned, and so the setting itself already set mood. And I saw the set that they had designed as part of the hospital, where they had you on that table with the candles, and it looked very, very demonic and very evil. And so there wasn't really, the set and set dressing and the lighting and everything was already in place. There wasn't much to do to prepare. All you have to do is you open yourself up to that and you say, what if it were really true? So I'm standing there and I'm looking at this sacrifice about to happen and the evil that is there. They're going to sacrifice a girl and her baby, which is a horrible sin, to kill a child. And it overwhelmed me just there, and you can go with that. I would never want to prepare for that evil, and yet I'm standing there watching it in our time. And so it was very easy to allow that in and to just project it back out. And of course, running down the hall and seeing the Michael Myers mask just by itself sitting on a table without anybody in it is a really spooky looking mask, just scary. And then you can imagine it on a person, it's awful. Yeah, really awful. And then they don't speak. It's all very, very chilling. So you don't have to work yourself up to do much. At least I don't, perhaps, but it's very frightening. And then they put you down the hall and they say, all right, Michael's coming behind you and you're gonna have to turn around. I didn't want to turn around. I knew what was there. So, turned around and there was Michael. And so there's not a lot for me, I guess, to prepare other than to put myself there and to open myself, I guess, to the notion of, yes, there really is true evil in the world and it is among us. And for the movie, that all you have to say is, well, then the personification of evil is, in this case, Michael Myers and what they're trying to do to this girl and her baby. And you just roll with it.
Well said, thank you.
For me, it's interesting because I spent, for my callback for this, I actually spent probably more time talking to the casting director about the role of Jamie than anything else, probably because he wanted to know that I understood it. And for me, it was all about the fact that she's a survivor, and she's not going to stop fighting until she can't fight anymore. And for this particular film, after I read the script, all of that strength that you see in her as a child in 4 and 5 gets transferred into the will to keep her baby alive. That it's that in 6, the difference is it's not about her survival, it's about the baby surviving. And that she doesn't have time to stop and think about anything else. And so the end, as horrible as it is for her, it's triumphant because it saved her child. And so that was how I prepared for it. I just, it's like that will of a mother. That's instinctual because she's a child, even she hasn't, she's been taken by this cult and she's been held prisoner for this whole time since she was a little kid. She hasn't really matured or had a chance to have a life. So it's all about this child now having one.
These very articulate ladies. It's a lot to follow up. Yeah, I had actually originally read for Mary Ann's role, and then I was like, oh well, yeah, I can play that other part. And the producers contacted me and basically, I don't think I auditioned for Mary Ann's role, and then they offered me the other part. So I hadn't actually even, when they offered it to me, I wasn't sure what the part was. But then I read it and I fully understood how they saw that character in me. I would be very much like president of the senior class, of student council. So for me, it was like just being the girl that's trying to get everybody on board with my plight, and the belief that things had changed, and I'm sort of like the word of optimism, and in complete denial that evil does exist. So I just connected with that part of me and then portrayed that and tried to really be in the moment, and doing that death scene was like very, very terrifying, the lead up to it, and just the pressure for an actress to deliver in that moment, like Devin referred to. It's like everybody's looking at you, you're on, and you have no idea how that moment's gonna play out, and just to connect to that terror for me was like very useful. And I was, just as far as my perspective on Halloween in the series, I really love the first Halloween movie, and what I liked about the script was I saw a classic horror film in there, so I really tried to portray the classic horror film character, the girl who just doesn't believe that there's a killer and all of that. And that was really fun and magical. And the thing that I really was most astounded by was we all got there and like every single person was a real actor. Yeah. I've been on many jobs where it's just sort of like people that are cute and got hired, but it was like a crew of people that were like basically like theater actors who were really invested in creating characters and the interaction between them. And I had a full method romance with Keith Bogart, who isn't here to speak of it, but he was my on-set boyfriend, and he spent all his per diem on dinners for me. So if you're wondering if there was any sparks there, there was.
I got called in. There's 2 different cuts, the producer's cut and then the theatrical cut. And most of the stuff I did was on the theatrical cut. So they already started filming. I didn't go to Utah, but I did all the stuff in the killing in the barn, for those of you who don't know. And I did the father-in-law in the basement, and everything in the hospital at the end. We did, and it was a lot of fun. When I came in to try out for it, they had 4 or 5 stunt players come in to try out for Michael Myers, and what they had us do basically was lay flat on the floor in that scene from, I'm not sure which one was it, the way he sits up, the first time he sits up. Was it 1?
Yeah.
So they had us each do that. And boy, if you're not used to doing that, I don't do sit-ups. And I always wondered if I was even going to be able to do that. And I did it, with your hands to your side, not with your hands on your chest like a sit-up. So So I did that and then got the call back, and I was pretty thrilled to do it. And to prepare for the role, I had to go back and watch the other shows too. I really wasn't a big fan until I started watching it, and I wanted to make sure I got the movement down like Michael Myers and then add my own flair to it and stuff like that. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and every time I put the mask on, it helped me get. I'm not a big actor. I was what you would call in Hollywood a 10 and under, 10 lines and under. Don't give me more dialogue than that. I was a stunt man for 20 years. Yeah, my thing was just hitting the ground. So all the part where Michael Myers got beat up and stuff, I felt right at home. You know, but it was kind of nice for me to be able to slam Marianne around and pull her hair through the bars. And it's kind of nice in my point of view to actually be the guy killing everybody, because I'm usually the one that gets killed. So I try to add a little flair of my own, you know, a little head tilt, and the thing with the knife going into the surgery room, and I grabbed the larger knife and went in and killed everybody. And,
I was just talking about that scene with someone.
yeah, and my dad was a stunt coordinator on the show, by the way, Fred Lerner. And you guys remember the one orderly that gets away and I chase him down the hallway and puts his head through the bars? That was my dad. I got to kill my dad. So the part on the show was, I'd have to say that part.
That was
And slamming
so
Marianne around.
brutal.
Yeah, that was cool.
Oh.
Thank you.
As far as preparation for the film, you know, a lot, and I'm sure this doesn't come as a surprise given, again, my age, but a lot of it was all from my dad. So what he did when I got the part was, like Marianne said, we sat down and watched all the movies, 1, 2, 4, and 5, power watched them back to back all day long, one day. Job of preparing me to understand the role and be able to, you know, put myself in the right mindset. What he really did was made me run up the stairs from the basement for the next 20 years.
Film, it could be two different places, but then the magic of film is when you edit it all together, it looks like it's one building, so I'm not quite sure.
And that could just be my imagination created, and that memory is now stronger than whatever the reality is of.
We've got our brains together.
Yeah,
That's
so,
different
yeah,
versions.
I was trying to remember the place. And we shot nights too, so especially those tunnel scenes were filmed for me the first few days, and for you as well. So, you know, going from being up in the daytime to shooting at night, you get a little like what's real and what's not anyway.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
There were two separate locations. The locations with the long hallways was an abandoned mental hospital. The place where the ruins was set up in the, you know, the dungeon-like set, that was in a huge barn. And actually, Entertainment Tonight came to the set, and I took them on a tour of this incredible druid like dungeon that the production and design team had created. It was just extraordinary. And that was a real bummer when most of that was cut out of the theatrical cut, because I was just like, oh my God, all the time and effort that went into this. Yeah, it was two different locations. But, yeah.
Well, they both had to be pretty close in Utah, because that's the only place I flew into that I recall.
Well, they're both in
It was
Utah.
right there, and then they would just drive you to one and drive you to the other.
Yeah.
And it was a magnificent set. It truly was.
Well, and was the opening scene with the baby and Mitch, was that at the same place where we were on the altar, or was that part of the mental hospital? Do you know what I'm talking about? That opening little part with Mitch with the baby, I think actually peed on him when they were shooting it.
Oh yeah, no, that was the druid. That was the druid scene, right? When you.
Yeah, so that was all,
Yeah.
that was part of the
Because
scene.
they had to shoot. It's, you know, you shoot. Obviously, you all know you shoot out of chronological order when you're shooting the movie. So you do it by location. So we had that set. They shot the baby on the altar, and they shot me on the altar.
Yeah, and then sometimes, because I wasn't in scenes, I was in scenes with Susan, I remember going to where, you know, for example, the house where you guys were shooting, and they would get me ready there, but then we would move location, so it was all disjointed.
That's actually good to know. What I found interesting about this particular film, especially with the script, is you actually had 3 different catalysts within the script that brought it all together into one moment. Because you had a catalyst with her character coming in and bringing, like she said, she wasn't afraid of anything, she didn't want to believe it. She's actually what introduced Michael to the town, essentially.
Right.
By invading his space. And then you had the catalyst with Jamie. You had the catalyst of your character coming in. So it was a lot of stories that intertwining into one, which I found very interesting. And I thought that you all played it really well for each of the characters. If you look at the hero's journey, each of you had your own journey that you were going through. So it was very interesting to me. What I want to ask the audience is, do you have any questions or comments for the cast? Yes. Let me come down there for you, okay? So we can actually talk. Stand up. What's your name? Lila. Okay, Lila has a question. All right, Lila.
What was your favorite part about dying if you died in Halloween?
Nice.
We all love to die. Eli.
I can tell you what it wasn't. It wasn't, my favorite part about dying was not being covered in corn syrup. That was sticky and uncomfortable. I like that to the end she's about her kid. That you can't have this baby. And that stayed from the producer's cut to the theatrical cut. That was a constant. I mean, the way it went down is different, but that was a constant.
I liked dying first. Yes, I liked it when he did his little head tip, and I also liked when I was hanging on the wall in a harness, obviously, because there's no hole back here. I remember hanging there, and the harness is cutting into you a little bit, and I thought of the fact that, okay, well, she's freshly dead, and I remember, you know, if you can see any kind of an animal that maybe has been beheaded or has had major trauma to their neck, their limbs, their extremities will still move or twitch. And so that's why I twitched my feet a little bit, just a little bit of like, because they're still, you know, the electrical impulses are still going. So that was fun. It was fun to die first, and it was very fun to be spiked like a football on a wall.
My favorite thing about dying was my pink fuzzy robe. Who gets to get killed in a pink fuzzy robe? And I was also happy that I didn't have to be murdered in the nude.
That's a plus.
This just sparked a memory for me. Your death with Keith. I had to, you guys were flown home, and I had to discover my brother and his girlfriend slaughtered in the bed and pull back the sheet, and I had to do it to nothing.
Oh no.
And this was my first movie. I didn't understand. I was like, well, why can't we get Mariah and Keith back here and like throw blood all over them? Like, I mean, I need something. But I literally had to react to, and actually it wasn't even a bed. I had to like pull a sheet, and you could see the sheet, and I had to just visualize Mariah and Keith Bogart murdered, my brother and his girlfriend and my friend. So I was acting. Do you want me to reenact it?
Actually, yes, we would love to see that. We would love to see that. Okay, I need quiet on the set, please. And action. And the Oscar goes to... What's your name?
Sorry, Joey.
Joey has a question.
Sorry, guys.
Put your camera over, Joey.
All right, don't knock it over. Hey, what's going on? Editor of 1428elm.com. I appreciate you guys showing up. Thank you very much for that. That made my whole weekend. All right, cool. What separates the Halloween series from, say, like Friday the 13th, and even you go as far as to say like Nightmare on Elm Street, is the inclusion of the Dr. Loomis character, right? Him being involved in the whole project, or I mean the whole series in general, is just it raises it above just your average slasher fare. depending on even Halloween 5, which is complete garbage. All right, can you guys elaborate on working with the great Donald Pleasance and how it impacted your life being in the last film that he ever made?
I was so aware of who Donald Pleasance was because he, in England, he was a huge theater actor, and Harold Pinter based the character Davies in The Caretaker on him. He wrote it for him. So, and a lot of people didn't know that about him, that he wasn't just Dr. Loomis and in, what's the Dr. No?
Right.
Yeah. And I was so intimidated because he was just, I was like, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. I just didn't feel like I was worthy to even talk to him. And then on the set, he was just the loveliest, sweetest, impish person, and he had this real sly, devilish sense of humor. And I remember I was sitting on the set in between takes, and we had a long setup, and I was reading Vanity Fair magazine, and he was sitting next to me, and he just sighed, and he said, Thackeray's best. And I just howled, because Thackeray wrote Vanity Fair, the novel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so, the very last scene of the movie, which we originally shot in Utah, and so it was interspersed with the whole third act that was shot in LA, but they kept the very last scene, which kind of didn't make sense because we've been through absolute hell and mayhem, and then what we saw, we all looked pretty spiffy. We were kind of oh, it's sort of hard day, but so I don't think it matched continuity-wise, but freaking freezing. It was at 2:30 in the morning, and this is our last shot in the red Jeep. Danny, Allred, myself, and Donald Pleasance, and we say, why don't you come with us? And he says no, and we say, where are you going? And he said, the Bahamas. Literally 20 below. And JC can tell you about that experience. Shooting in Utah. It's freezing.
I just mostly remember him being super kind. I didn't get a lot of one-on-one time with him, but I do remember him being very kind and easy to work with, so.
Yeah, just like you said, he's a really kind man, and I met him. I didn't really get a lot of one-on-one time with him either, but it was a pleasure meeting him.
I didn't work with Donald Pleasance, although I admired him as an actor and was, like I said, I feel like the entire cast was actors who have respect for the craft, so it was super cool to be included in a cast with Donald Pleasance.
Yeah, I didn't get to work with him really either, although I felt a bond to his character just through my character and their history. But I think I talked about this on the last panel. There's a scene where, in the producer's cut, I'm not dead, but I'm being wheeled out of the barn. And because it was so cold, and I had 7 pairs of long johns under this hospital robe, and 14 pairs of socks, and it was freezing, snowing, cold out, and they were raining out the blizzard with a rain machine on me. So I was.
Welcome to Utah.
I went into hypothermia one night. It was bad. So at this point, they were trying to keep me out of the cold, so I didn't get really sick as much as possible. So they had somebody else on the gurney, I think, at the time. Somebody else with brown hair was a large shot. He just went, Jamie, how much you've changed, or you changed so much. It's pretty funny. So that's his wit. That's what I mostly remember about him.
And him just going after his family. And then at 5, you kind of get the hint that they have their cult going on. And then 6 is all, I all about the occult. And I was just wondering if you guys would have preferred it be more hardcore slasher and if he's going after his family, or if he likes the whole occult decision.
Could you repeat the question? We didn't hear.
Her question was that the first Halloweens were mainly about him going after his family, and in 5 and 6 they really started delving into the occult, using the wording symbols, so on and so forth. Would you prefer it to be a standard slasher film, or did you like the occult aspect and how they brought the storyline, I guess, to being with that occult aspect?
Well, you know, Daniel Ferens wrote the script, and Daniel Ferens, who wrote the script, he knows everything about the Halloween movies, and there was no accident. Every single thing in the original script was purposeful and had resonance to 4 and 5 and 1 and 2. And as actors, we really don't have much of a say in, I mean, we just act the script that we're given. So that's more of a question for Daniel Ferens, I think.
I think the essence of it was, did you like the idea that they actually did a little bit more with it than just the slasher aspect of it with the family? That there wasn't a deeper storyline to it, I think is really what she was asking.
Yeah.
I really liked quitting my waitressing job.
That's the true answer of an actor.
Yes,
True
and
answer.
that's a true story. I told the busboy, I was like, it's you or me. And I like to repeat that story because the power of like intention and making a clear decision. I was like, that's it, I can't deal with you anymore. Like, I'm out of here. And I was cast in that film, and I never went back to that job again. So it's very powerful to make a decision. And I dug the occult part of the script. And like I said, I think we all, like, if I didn't like that script, I wouldn't have been in the film. And there were things I had to do in the film that I wasn't that keen on initially, but I liked the script enough to do it. So, you know, I think we were all kind of on board with the slant.
And I love all the old school John Carpenter references that is peppered all throughout the dialogue that Dan put in. So that was really cool.
Yes.
I mean, for me, the film actually had a deeper resonance because of the story, because it felt like it wasn't just hack slash. It really did feel like it had something more to it and some discovery to have happen, which is what the character progression going through their journey. So I actually enjoyed that one a lot.
And one more thing I'll say is, to me, even though the element of the occult is brought in, it's still very much about him coming after his family. So like it didn't ever lose that. It just grew on that storyline and tried to evolve it into a new place.
I liked the aspect that as he grew from his family, in a way, the evil manifested even more. And then with the occult coming in and to sacrifice, that takes the level, that takes it out of maybe a family psychosis and maybe a bad family relationship. We are now talking about demonic involvement, and you're sacrificing innocent life to it. And that's a whole other power grid, if you will, that animates and brings a very strange power and life to Michael, who now almost can't die in a way. And where is he getting this from? And it's not just somebody, I'm mad at my family, it's now I'm mad at life, I'm mad at innocence. So that the occult aspect is very interesting to me, that they added to it.
I agree. It really did take on this presence. It was no longer just a human killer. It took on a presence. And I think one of the eeriest scenes in that film for me was when you actually see Michael standing there during that whole entire process of that sacrifice. When you see him there, you don't normally see him with people. It was just, that was eerie for me. But, okay, we have a question over here. Yes. What's your name? And just talk right into the microphone.
Actually, you kind of brought up what my question was. Watching the movie and that scene where Michael was standing with that occult group, it was eerie, you know, because all the time you ever see Michael, you know, he walks into an individual and it's gone, you know, it's immediately. And so it's like watching him in a crowd of people, and it's like, he doesn't want to kill a single one of them. So this is actually more for the man who played Michael. What was probably going through his head at that point? It's something like, is he controlled by those people, or is it like a bonding with those people?
You know what? I think George Wilbur did that same. It wasn't me. You know, there was two of us on Halloween 6. And I did, like I said, the theatrical version, and George Wilbur, and he'd have to be here to answer that, because I didn't do that scene.
Other questions? Yes. What's your name, sir?
Hey guys.
Hey.
How did you guys feel about being two different films, producers to theatrical?
I saw the first screening and I was like, because I wasn't in the reshoots, I can't remember who I was sitting next to, but somebody was close by, had been in the reshoots, and I was like, what is this movie? Like, I was like so stunned. I was like, either I didn't read the script very well, or they added something. It was like, to me, who was in the film, completely unrecognizable. I was like, wow, what happened here? I mean, obviously there were scenes that were still in the film, the overall story shifted so dramatically. I don't know that I had like an opinion one way or the other at that moment as to how much I liked it. I think I was still in so much shock that the movie had taken that turn, and then Paul's performance was like so radically different from like what he was portraying and then what they did. And then to see the movie re-released like more in the form of
For anybody else, but I think it's true for all of us, that we felt protective over his vision of the film. And I do remember the first test screening we went to, which was the producer's cut before the reshoots. That's right. And I did remember thinking, well, there are some things that could be tightened up or improved upon when you see it all put together like that. So when the reshoots came about, then discover that it was a totally different script was confusing to me. It was like, well, why change everything? So, and it felt disjointed. I didn't really know what the vision was for the theatrical release until it was released. I just sort of was there, dying sooner. In a way. It was a wig that happened because I had blonde hair or something else.
Anybody else want to give any info on that one?
I'm kind of glad they did the reshoot.
We're going to start wrapping this up, so if anybody else has any other questions. All right, we'll make this the last one. What's your name, sir? Cam, come on up.
I don't really have a question per se, but just want to say that Curse of Michael Myers was one of, if not the first Halloween movie I ever saw, and like as I continued to like grow and fall in love with the genre, it stuck with me throughout basically my whole life. And I want to thank you guys for being in the movie, and it still sticks with me.
One of the things I think that we're really cool as horror fans, we all stick together. And it's folks like this who give us our heroes and help us sleep at night when we know that we can beat the villain. They come out and we're not sleeping at night. They come out and give us that, and give us these wonderful films. And to have them here to talk to and share their experiences with, I think that's fantastic. I thank you guys for coming out. And please make sure you stop by their booths. They're all there. I had some great conversations with them yesterday. Great people to talk to. They have some wonderful things to sell. And just stop by, say hi, and make sure you take care of them. And give them a warm welcome and thank you for coming out.